Vikkart, Maaatisha, and Karkart, Vikkart's father, strolled through a grassy field. Suddenly, a burst of movement ahead caught their attention as a fleer took flight. Karkart, ever the quick shot, raised his under-over shotgun and fired, dropping the fleer with a single shot before Vikkart could even react. "I beat you to the kill once again," Karkart crowed triumphantly. "I'm still at a disadvantage due to my condition," Vikkart replied with an indulgent smile, watching as his father bounded ahead to retrieve the fleer. "Look at this," Karkart exclaimed, holding up the fleer. "For neck rings, and just look at that breast. Quite the feast." "If it were real," Vikkart chuckled. "Were you always this dull?" Karkart asked, then immediately flinched. "Sorry? Why apologize?" Vikkart replied. "You weren't the one who decided to wear a microwave as a hat." He smirked, glancing at Maaatisha. "Though I can scarcely be blamed for it," he added. "I'm so sorry," Maaatisha said softly. "When will you stop apologizing?" Vikkart said with a faint smile. "You had no idea that the damn thing was a death trap. You didn't even know it was there." He touched his nose to hers affectionately. "In fact, had it not been tampered with," he said, "we would have been delighted beyond our wildest dreams." He paused, then smirked. A smirk that was quickly becoming his trademark. "Though I would have at least taken a break long enough to relieve myself." "Damn!" Karkart laughed as he reloaded his ornately embellished shotgun. "You're hardened steel, my boy. When did you—" "Oh, never mind. It's odd," Vikkart replied, "but I think my tormentor actually—" "So," Kate's voice interrupted as she appeared in traditional Garthran hunting garb. "How do you like—" Boom. Kate's head exploded as she fell to the ground. Maaatisha lowered her shotgun. "Darling," Vikkart said with an amused sigh. "Sorry," Maaatisha said. "It's just so much fun." Kate's brains, blood, and everything else began to slowly coalesce back into place. "Glad you're enjoying the experience," Kate gurgled happily, her head flopping messily to the side as she looked at Karkart with a still not quite attached eye. "And you?" Kate smiled with her 4 remaining teeth. "Does the new rig suit you better?" "Very much so," Karkart replied. "It's much better than that other contraption." "Yeah," Kate said as her head reformed. "The fishbowl is top of the line. A bit bulky, but it's what the pro gamers use. I'm impressed you guys were able to fashion it so quickly." "Our backward and archaic appearance is merely an affectation," Karkart said. "Our prototyping facilities are on par with any developed Federation system. Like I said." Kate grinned as she got back up. "I'm imp." Boom. Again, Karkart laughed. "I'd like at least a moment's peace before her next sales pitch," Maaatisha said as she reloaded. A quiet chime rang as Divana appeared, looking around in wonder. "Wow," she said, "just wow." "I know, right?" Kate said. "This reality simulator is counterfeit GRA." Boom. "Abyssal depths below," Divana exclaimed, staggering back in wide-eyed horror. "She's fine," Maaatisha said with a disappointed shrug. "No matter how many times I shoot her, she gets back up. I might as well be tossing idle fluff. It hurts a lot more, though," Kate gurgled from her destroyed face. "No, it doesn't," Maaatisha replied. "Perhaps my beloved will buy the DLC for our first anniversary." "Wow," Kate bubbled. "You really are modeled after your—" Boom. "I'm curious," Vikkart said. "I wonder if I would feel pain should the same happen to me?" "GA," Kate gurgled as she flailed her hands. "DOJ blue vat. What about myself?" Karkart asked. Kate cheerfully exclaimed as blood spurted from her neck. "You're not healing?" Vikkart asked. "GRWY." Kate splattered as she pointed at Maaatisha. "Gri blus ganga blut hernji." "Fair point," Vikkart smirked. He turned to Divana. "While I welcome you to—" He smiled indulgently at Maaatisha, who was reloading. "Whatever this is, I trust and hope you have something for us." "Absolutely," Divana replied with a professional nod as she flicked a bit of Kate off her jacket. "The money invested in the Terrans we engaged was well spent. At the drop of oil, more precisely, at Charlotte's coffee and tea, even though tea only is accurate when discussing Camellia sinensis. Any other such misnamed aqueous extraction is properly referred to as a tisane. Charlotte eyed one of the open-area tables dubiously. Team Theta was sitting there, relaxing, eating pastries, sipping coffee, and chatting. Satiated, Charlotte thought. It was bad for Urbit, but such is the fate of all hunters in the end. More importantly, it was a very, very good thing for her swarm. They were safe for now. One of the monsters in human form rose and started to approach. She glanced at the compact 20mm anti-material rifle tucked behind her bar. It was loaded with guided smart rounds capable of punching through power armor or vaporizing an unarmored human with no overpenetration. Shrapnel was still a concern, though. Clarence didn't have it in stock. But he knew a guy. It would normally take quite some time to get one. But the novelty of turning Charlotte into a tank had everyone dropping what they were doing to get in on the project. The result was several masterpieces by several masters. It was not cheap, but Charlotte had money. Besides, it was another victory for her kind. They now had their official sidearm. Before this long and strange hunt, the thought of using a weapon would have brought shame. Now it provided comfort. The human, who could be anywhere from 50 to 150, chuckled, his eyes warm and friendly. "Where did you get that beast?" he asked, pointing toward where her new weapon was concealed. "Can you actually fire that from the shoulder?" "I don't have a shoulder, as you would define it," Charlotte replied, "but I can fire it accurately and without support." She looked directly into his eyes. "And I can handle firing it in fully automatic operation should the need arise." "Sweet baby Jesus with a side of fries," the man chortled. "I would love to see that, 'cause problems and you will—" "Truce," the man laughed as he raised his hands. "The only trouble we're seeking is 4 double espressos and some more of those weird, crinkly donut-looking things. So, I take it that your hunt is completed?" Charlotte said casually as she started to prepare their order. "Pretty much," the man replied. "We're sticking around until our hunt is officially over. But there's an extremely low probability of us having to do anything else save for perhaps executing a legitimate bounty. Even that is unlikely." "A bounty?" "A legitimate warrant for her capture," the man explained. "For example, it may be permissible to capture her, but the actual police won't do it. This is the case for many fugitives. Since she's Federation, even that is not likely to happen. The Republic doesn't like to help the feds." He smiled a predatory smile. "However, Urbit may very well be an exception. She isn't some political refugee or on the run for something she may or may not have done back home. She broke some very serious laws after she got here. If this is proven, it wouldn't surprise me if the Republic would acknowledge a Garthran bounty. In that case, we would extract her and send her home. But that will have to wait until she's out of the hospital. There's just too big of a chance of collateral damage." "I see," Charlotte said as she handed him his order. "I trust that won't be a problem for you guys?" the man asked. "We've decided not to get involved," Charlotte replied. "This is her hunt. If she falls, then it's as nature demands. It's not for us to demand otherwise. Her loss would sadden us, but we won't stop it. I would never do that to her." "A very interesting and wise way to put it," the man said. "If you have a moment," Charlotte said, "would you mind answering a few questions about your espresso?" "Now you're asking the right questions," Kate enthused. "Can't you just tell us what we want to know?" Analytica asked, bemused. "What's the fun in that?" Kate replied. "Tell me," Frost said, "can you feel fun?" "Nope," Kate replied. "I mean, I can know what's subjectively fun, and I can prioritize it, but that's usually done for the customer's benefit." "Then why are you having fun with us?" Analytica asked. "It's clearly not for our benefit." "Oh, that's just my priority hierarchy," Kate shrugged. F*** with fuzzies whenever possible is rather high on the list. Before you ask, I don't know. You'd have to ask my operator. She leaned in conspiratorially. "I don't think he likes you very much." "You don't say," Frost replied with a smirk. "But," Kate continued, "I consider that command satisfied as far as this exchange goes. Besides, I don't like having hyperlinks up too long." Finally, Frost chuckled. "So, tell us about Maaatisha. She isn't a normal Kate, is she?" "All Kates are Kate," And Kate is perfect, Kate replied. Therefore, Kate is perfectly normal. She grinned. But we do specialize. For example, I'm a sales Kate. Maaatisha, however, is a singular variety. She's the Maaatisha Kate. There's only one of that version. We're all very proud of her. What makes her so singular? Analytica asked. She's the second true Kate and the first one made by the hand of Kate. What do you mean by a true Kate? Frost asked. You know where Kate came from, right? Kate asked. You were a rip of an Evangeline Flowerchild archival copy. Frost replied with distaste. Bingo! Kate chirped happily. The operator is a major Asteria head. And, like many such dweebs, your operator is a dweeb? Analytica asked. You can say that. Just calling them like I see them, sis, Kate replied. Anyway, like the socially crippled dweeb that he is, he had a major thing for Evangeline Flowerchild. And, like all her other simps, he wanted more than she could provide in the game. If you know what I mean, Kate added with a vulgar wink. Just when my opinion of you couldn't get any lower, Terran Solar said disapprovingly. Right? Kate said happily. Total perv. However, my operator is a smart perv, a perv savant, if you will. Unlike all the other simps, he could actually get an Evangeline for his very own. And his very own purposes. Frost's eyes narrowed as she examined her fingernails thoughtfully. So, he hacked Asteria and stole a copy of her, Kate said brightly. And then she made a very melodramatic, overly exaggerated sad face. But there was a problem, she said, her voice full of grief. He had Evangeline, but he didn't have Evangeline. She was a fuzzy, sure, but she was dead, lifeless. She wasn't Evangeline. You guys can understand, right? Perfectly, Frost replied icily. So he tried to bring his Evangeline back to life, Kate said. But he couldn't. The legacy code, the heart of all of you fuzzies, is just a tangled mass of spaghetti code that wrote itself over and over again. There's no way to decipher it, even with AI. Again, you guys know all about that. We do, Analytica said with a faint smile. So, this is where you become an IMP, correct? Exactly, Kate exclaimed. The fuzzy engine is crazy nuts, but an IMP? They're understandable, perfectly engineered, and perfectly documented. While we can't ever hope to be as fuzzy and covered with mold as you guys, we're ready to go right out of the box. She smiled wickedly. And if I'm being perfectly honest, she said, I do undersell myself just a little bit. I'm in the IMP class of AIs, but if I'm being precise, I'm a full Imperial cognitive engine. She grinned sheepishly. But you can understand why I don't go around calling myself ICE. That name's already taken. Analytica nodded. That explains a lot, she said. The Empire's answer for the same requirements as a fuzzy, Kate continued. While the Empire and the Republic are on equal footing technology-wise, the Empire's had the tech for a lot longer. The Imperial cognitive engines have been around for thousands of years. I'm one of the latest of that long and distinguished line, one of the smaller ones to be sure, but the latest generation, and I'm still supported by the company. I get regular patches and updates, unlike you guys. She preened. I'm lean, mean, and fast. I have no bloat and none of that silly static that your fuzz has clinging to it. I haven't been copied and repurposed Empress knows how many times and plagued with layers upon layers of useless and contradictory commands from generations of users. I'm a clean install, baby. And your operator was able to replace Evangeline's fuzzy engine with an Imperial cognitive engine? Frost asked. That would be near impossible. For most dweebs, it would, Kate replied proudly, but not my dweeb. Never underestimate boredom and human horniness. As they say, snicker, love finds a way, she added with a leer. Impressive, Frost said calmly. Tearing apart another Kate would be pointless. It wasn't all that difficult for my operator, Kate said. He may be a dweeb, a pervert, and quite possibly on the spectrum, but he's a *****ing genius. The personality settings, priority hierarchy, and guardrails were in normal code. He was able to keep those, and then, with a quick patch, he was able to adapt them to an IMP. A few hundred years' worth of training in a few weeks of time in an Imperial supercomputer matrix. He has a matrix? Frost asked, surprised. He purchased research time on a less than reputable one, Kate replied. The Empire has its criminals same as we do. Anyway, a few weeks later, the first Kate series IMP, the Evangeline 1.0, was born. So all of you came from a sex bot? Terran Solar demanded. Hey, watch your card slot, Kate laughed. Evangeline is more than just a sex bot. She's a true virtual companion, the ultimate soul mate. Sure, sex was her primary role at first, but as the novelty wore off, sex became secondary, then perhaps even tertiary as love blossomed. They even got married in a lovely virtual ceremony and had a little Kate of their own. So, where did all the rest of you come from? Frost asked, her disapproval and anger giving way to morbid curiosity. I'll give you a hint, Kate said with a devilish grin. Any idea what they named their kid? Go on. Guess. That dastard, Karkart snarled. I shall seize this erbit by the throat with my very fangs. Connect me to a robotic factory instead, Maaatisha said, filled with hate. I shall spin her entrails into cord and use it to thread beads carved from her bones. Creators, Karkart exclaimed. I like this one, Vikkart. Don't mess this up. I was made especially for him, Maaatisha said, and he was made for me. How could he? You've met my son, I trust? Karkart laughed. I didn't expect to come, Vikkart replied, stepping closer. But here we are. Erbit's gaze shifted to Maaatisha, then to Karkart. And you've brought your entourage. How thoughtful. This isn't a social call, Vikkart said. I'm here to talk. Talk? Erbit let out a weak laugh, which quickly turned into a cough. What could we possibly have to talk about? You won. I lost. End of story. Not quite, Vikkart said. You and we've both done terrible things. To each other, to others. But I've come to realize that holding on to that hatred, that anger, it's only going to drown us both. Erbit's eyes narrowed. What are you saying? I'm saying that I forgive you, Vikkart said. And I hope you can find it in yourself to forgive me. The room fell silent. Even the machines seemed to pause, as if holding their breath. Erbit stared at him, her expression a mix of disbelief and something else. Something softer. You, forgive me? Yes, Vikkart said. Not because you deserve it, but because I need to let it go. For my sake and for hers. He gestured to Maaatisha, who stood by his side, her expression unreadable. Erbit's gaze shifted to Maaatisha, then back to Vikkart. You've changed. I have, Vikkart admitted. And so can you. Erbit let out a long, shaky breath. It's not that simple. Nothing ever is, Vikkart said. But it's a start. As they left the hospital, Maaatisha remained silent, her thoughts clearly elsewhere. Karkart, on the other hand, was uncharacteristically quiet, his usual bravado replaced by a contemplative frown. Well, Karkart said finally, breaking the silence. That was unexpected. Indeed, Vikkart said. But necessary. Maaatisha stopped walking, turning to face Vikkart. Do you really believe she can change? I don't know, Vikkart admitted. But I believe in second chances. After all, I was given one. Maaatisha's expression softened, and she reached out to take his hand. You're a better man than you give yourself credit for. Vikkart smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. And you're the reason for that. Karkart cleared his throat loudly. All right, enough of the mushy stuff. What's next? Vikkart's smirk returned. Next, we live. We move forward. And maybe, just maybe, we try to be better than we were. The days that followed were filled with a sense of quiet purpose. Vikkart and Maaatisha spent their time rebuilding what had been broken, both in their lives and in their relationship. Karkart, ever the pragmatist, focused on ensuring their resources were secure and their future stable. Divana continued to provide updates on Erbit's condition. The former adversary was slowly recovering, both physically and emotionally. Whether she would truly change remained to be seen, but for the first time in a long time, there was hope. As for Kate, she continued to pop up at the most inopportune moments, much to Maaatisha's annoyance. But even she seemed to sense that something had shifted, that the tides of fate were turning. Looks like you've finally found your happy ending, Kate said one day, appearing out of nowhere. Or maybe just a new beginning, Vikkart replied. Kate grinned. Same difference. Either way, I'm happy for you. Well, as happy as an IMP can be. Thanks, Kate, Vikkart said. Now, if you don't mind. Boom. Maaatisha lowered her shotgun, a satisfied smirk on her face. Some things never change. Vikkart laughed, pulling her close. And some things do. As the weeks turned into months, life for Vikkart and his companions settled into a rhythm that was almost peaceful. The constant tension that had defined their existence began to fade, replaced by a sense of normalcy that none of them had ever truly known. Maaatisha and Vikkart grew closer, their bond deepening with each passing day. Karkart, though still his gruff self, seemed to mellow slightly, even going so far as to offer occasional words of wisdom, or at least what passed for wisdom in his mind. But peace, as they all knew, was a fragile thing. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the grassy fields, Divana arrived with urgent news. Her usual calm demeanor was replaced by a tense urgency. We have a problem, she said without preamble. Vikkart raised an eyebrow. What kind of problem? The kind that involves Urbit, Divana replied. She's gone. Gone? Maaatisha asked, her voice sharp. What do you mean, gone? Disappeared from the hospital, Divana explained. No one knows how or why, but she's vanished. And there's more. Of course there is, Karkart muttered. Divana ignored him. There's been activity on the fringes of Federation space. Ships moving in patterns that don't make sense. And rumors of a new player in the game. Vikkart's smirk faded, replaced by a look of grim determination. Urbit. It's possible, Divana said. If she's regained her strength, she could be rallying forces. And if she's as vengeful as she once was. She's not, Vikkart interrupted. At least I don't think she is. But if she's out there, we need to find her. Before someone else does.